What's up, friends? Today we are here on the Exway Atlas Pro with gear drive. It is very exciting because today is my quote-unquote official first ride. At least one that I'll be providing feedback on. I've technically ridden this once for one single mile, and it was enough to get an idea that this board is pretty cool. So today we're going to be going around our testing route, and I'll be giving some feedback on the board and my initial impressions. Right now we are in mode 1, which gives you a awfully uninspiring 7 miles an hour to play with, and that is max acceleration. Now this is not necessarily a bad thing because 1, these modes are configurable, and 2, some people are beginners and you just have to take that into consideration. Now, I have already messed with the settings on this board in the app and disabled safe mode. And so we're gonna switch to gear 2 right now and see what that is able to do. And there's max acceleration for gear 2. Not horrible. This maxes out at approximately 15 miles an hour. And one important thing to note, when you get an Exway Atlas Pro, you're going to have to do a little bit of messing about in the settings to make sure everything is configured properly. There are different ways that you can configure boards like this, and mine came out of the box with the wrong settings for speed and gear ratio, so make sure you check on that. For me, I had to change the gear ratio to the 12 to 57 or 4.75 that it is on the gear drive here, which you can hear in the back. I also needed to change the wheel size because that was wrong as well. So with both those changed, safe mode disabled, and what else did I change? There's one other thing. I turned off the ability to switch speed modes while riding because I'd rather stop to do that. And once we're over with this first ride, I won't be using the slower speed modes anyway. So yeah. Now, we're going to go ahead and switch to speed mode 3. So I'll pull off on the side here and switch that up. Oh, the other thing I changed was the amount of braking force. It originally started at 3 out of, I think, 10. But I switched it to 5, and even on braking force 5, I'm able to skid the tires, which is pretty cool because most boards don't let you do that. Personally, I'd rather be able to pull my tires all the way to the edge of their grip and have the ability to skid if I want to. So with all that out of the way, let's talk a little bit about the specs of this board. So, specs for the Exway Atlas Pro. Now, I already went over this in the beginning part of this video, so we'll just talk about them briefly. But on the back here, powering the board, we've got two 6370 motors hooked up to a gear drive with steel on steel gears. I think this is still the best option for gear drives, and to be honest, it sounds pretty decent. I'll get some raw clips later of the gear drive sound, but I'm definitely not upset about it. It's right in between being loud and quiet, so it's kind of moderate, a little bit louder than the newbie gear drive, at least at certain speeds, and definitely quieter than something like the Board Dynamics steel gear drives. So I think it's a decent mix between loud and quiet. Obviously the question for gear drives is how well are they built and will they last and stand up to the abuse, because they're very new to the e-skate market, especially in terms of pre-built boards. For DIY, we've had gear drives for several years now, and some people are even on their second iterations. But for the pre-built market, this is pretty much first try for Meepo, Exway, Eovan, and I guess the only people that really had gear drives were Ecomobile with their planetary gears, but that's completely different. So yeah, anyway, we got the gear drive back there with the 12 to 47, 12 to 57? Yeah, 12 to 57 gear ratio, which gives you a 4.75, which is pretty good. And I don't remember what this top speed of this board is. you get something over 30 miles an hour. So you end up with a decent amount of torque, especially for the Hobbywing ESC that we've got inside, which is their 3rd generation ESC according to their website. Now, as for the trucks that this drivetrain is connected to, we have the 10-inch double kingpin forged / CNC trucks from Exway, and people can say whatever they want about double kingpin trucks. I think they're fun and they have their use case, and that use case is not going fast, but that is perfectly fine for a lot of people. I have not ridden these trucks at high speed yet, as I'm still on my 2nd ride with the board, so I can't say much for the stability yet, but I will say that they feel completely different than the double kingpin trucks that I have with riptide bushings in them, and they feel a lot more prone to return to center, and that gives you a feeling of stability with those chubby 96A bushings. So they're definitely a bit different, something to get used to if you're coming from super carvy double kingpins, but they also have those other bushings that are included in the box, so we'll probably try those out a little bit later. Now, my goal of these first ride videos is not exactly to echo the marketing specs, so I'm going to try to talk a little bit about my riding experience. And so far on this ride, it's been pretty nice. These 175 millimeter pneumatic tires are pretty nice. They absorb a lot of bumps and road cracks. And I mean, honestly, it's what you would expect for 7-inch pneumatics. They're nothing special, but they do feel fairly grippy. And they're fairly well balanced. I will say that when I was riding on my first ride yesterday, the single mile, I noticed that one of the front wheels was not as balanced as I would like it to be. So, you know, obviously with pneumatic tires, you're gonna have some variation in their balance, but overall, they seem to be all right. And these are actually Exway proprietary tires. So when we get to the full review and I take apart the wheels to change a tire, we'll look and see if we can fit any other tires on there, because you know, you always hate to see proprietary tires on proprietary wheels. So we're getting up to the faster part of this route that I normally use for testing wheels and efficiency. So we'll be able to do a launch in mode 3 here and then switch over to mode 4. And these modes, you have the ability to configure in the X-Skate app, which is the new version of the old Exway app. And right now they're all set at default. Mode 4 has all the acceleration and braking, and the lower modes have less, with mode 3 being about 75%. So let's go ahead and do a 75% full throttle. All right, from a full stop, ready? 3, 2, 1. That was a full acceleration from 0 to the max speed of mode 3, which is 22 miles an hour. At this top speed here, it feels ever so slightly unstable. It's definitely fine, but if I were going faster, I'd want to tighten the trucks up a little bit. The gear drives are very quiet. And they seem to have a lot of grease in them from the sound. And I don't know if you can see on here, there's a grease port, which also serves as the mount for the fenders. So when we take apart the gear drives to see the inside, we'll see how much grease is in there, but it sounds like there's quite a bit, leading to that kind of muted, I don't even know what to call it, muted, high-pitched sound. Very, very different from the raw sound you get from Board Dynamics gear drives. Or the super quiet sound you get from newbie gear drives with that double gear system. All right, I'm gonna get to a flat spot here and then we'll switch to drive mode 4. Honestly, drive mode 3 is decent right now. The torque is not anywhere close to a DIY board, but it's definitely decent. Better than the Flex ER for sure, which is good because it's a much more expensive board. But It's also worth mentioning that this is a much different gear ratio than the oh, sorry. I thought my GoPro stopped recording. But it's a much different gear ratio than the Flex ER. So, and there's much bigger tires, much more comfortable. It's kind of hard to compare the two, but, you know, comparison will be made. So we'll see how their times stack up against each other in the 0 to 20 race. Anyway, let's do a 4th mode acceleration test in just a second here. All right, mode 4 acceleration in 3, 2, 1. That is definitely a lot more significant than the lower modes. I actually let off a little bit there because it felt a little bit unrefined. So we're gonna do it again, but definitely more than mode 3 and worlds more than the Flex ER. It does drop off pretty fast though, and that's something that you'll find with a lot of Chinese ESCs or Hobbywing ESCs for that matter. There's a torque drop off right after about 10-15 miles an hour, and I can feel that a little bit. It's better than it used to be, but oh, and there you can see those strong brakes. Nice and progressive, but with the ability to skid the tires. Now, let's go again. You can get up to 20 pretty fast in mode 4. It does feel a little bit unstable when you hit that speed though, so definitely want to be careful, especially if this is your first time on DKP trucks. I do not ride them super often, so I'm not the most experienced, but you know, as I ride this board more, I will learn them better. I'm always wary about pushing a board to its absolute limits on the first ride. I think that's pretty stupid. So, sorry if you are not fully satisfied by me ripping this board around yet, but still getting used to it. So, once I learn those intricacies and the holes in power and how the trucks react, we'll be able to rip it around at full power. But today, just the first look. So, a little bit more to talk about. Let's go over the deck. On here we've got this full carbon fiber deck, and as most will know, carbon fiber decks have pretty much zero flex. When they're built in this honeycomb sandwich method with the battery inside, obviously that is on purpose. You don't want your deck with a battery in it flexing, so nothing surprising there, but the 7-inch tires actually make up for the lack of flex in the deck, and the ride, along with the foam grip tape, has been pretty comfortable so far. So I'm pretty pleased there. I was expecting to not like this deck, but the actual shape of it is very nice as well. I've not ridden many other carbon decks. I tried the Yovan GTS Super. I thought the W Concave was way too aggressive. I stood on the Meepo Hurricane. That one felt pretty decent, but I do like how this one feels. And time will tell again if I will like it at the end of the day, but on first impression, it's pretty decent. Decks are not the most interesting thing, to be honest, unless they offer something unique. And I wouldn't say that this one is particularly unique when you compare it to the other carbon fiber battery in deck builds out there. The remote for this board, as with the other Exway board that I tested, is the same kind of thumb wheel that you'll find on most other production boards. I do like the shape of it. It works pretty well with these gloves that I'm wearing, which are from Xboard. You can check out my Xboard videos elsewhere on the channel. Also mention these Beyond Riders pants that I've been riding in almost every single video. They are great. You can check out the video for those up in the high card. Now, I don't really have a ton else to say right now, so let's get some more footage and then I'll talk a bit more later. will say one thing about double kingpin trucks is that they've got a tiny turning radius when you want them to. Especially if you really put some weight into it. You could almost turn around on a sidewalk if you tried hard enough. Woo. I'm really enjoying the sound of these gear drives. In fact, I'm enjoying it so much, makes me question how much range it will actually have, because inside here we have a 12S4P of, I'm pretty sure Lishen 2170 LA cells, which are pretty decent. They're decently on par with the Samsung 40T cell, except they're a lot cheaper. So, let's see how much range it gets, but I am decently optimistic. I think I'll get about 15 to 17 miles out of it when I'm pushing it hard. I do like how these trucks respond. They feel pretty good. Still going to be getting squirrely at over 20 miles an hour, as most would expect on double kingpin trucks. Probably could torque them down a little bit. These are the stock out of the box settings, so some tuning may be required. All right, we're rolling down the bumpy hill, rolling resistance hill. I think we're gonna call it that. The board is feeling pretty decent. Again, not gonna be going too fast on this ride. I don't want to fall off on my second time riding the board. We do have a decent amount of rolling resistance out of these 175mm tires and this gear drive. Feels fairly normal, if not a little bit high. I might attribute some of that to a lot of grease in the gear drive, but they won't be able to see that until we take it apart. So I'm gonna have to wait on that, but feels decently stable. We're going about 21 miles an hour right now. And again, I'll get more comfortable with the higher speed as I ride the board more. We're about to hit the bumpy bridge. See how we do here. Yeah, these 7-inch tires are really doing wonders for the comfort of this board. Surprisingly, there is actually quite a large difference between 6 and 7-inch when it comes to comfort, especially if you compare this to hard tires like the DKP 150s. Now we're going up the hill, able to hold 19 miles an hour just fine. It looks like I can push it a little bit more, over 20, which is not bad. I'm not quite maxed out on the throttle. Much better than the Flex ER. Not bad performance. Nothing like a DIY or a vest-based board, but definitely nothing to sneeze at. I'm not sure if this would hold up on a group ride, to be honest, but it's doing decently. We have also traveled about 4.5 miles. We're still on full battery, which is, oh, just kidding, we're not on full battery. We're 1 bar down, which is still surprising, to be honest. All right, we are at the end of our first loop on our first ride. Whoops. And just wanted to have some closing thoughts for this video. More testing to follow, first of all. This board is fun. Feels pretty solid. It's easy to control. There's a little bit of weird acceleration in the mid 15s. I think it's just something I need to get used to, but again, much more testing to follow. Let me know down in the comments below what you want me to test on this board, especially with the gear drives. We can test braking, acceleration. Do you want me to take it on a trail ride? I don't know. I'm open to hearing your suggestions. So, who's this board for off the top of my head? Probably an intermediate rider who wants to do some off-roading and still retain the ability to turn on double kingpins. As I rode, I enjoyed the tuning of these double kingpins a little bit more. I'm pretty happy with them overall. So if I want to tune them more in the future to make them more turny or more stable, I'll probably end up doing that. But as they are right now, they're fun. They work, but they're definitely not super stable above like 22 to 23 miles an hour. So got to work on both my form and the tuning. Probably tighten them up a little bit, see how that feels. But yeah, overall, great ride. Had a fun time. We went 7 miles, and it looks like I used 2 bars out of the 5 of battery, and that's including the 1 mile that I did yesterday. So 8 miles for about 30% battery, something like that. So not too bad. Anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Again, leave your comments down below, any questions or suggestions. Stay safe, keep on riding, and peace out.